where out of 10 people who were voters, 6 cast their votes and 4 didn't cast their votes, which is probably a lot to do with the fact that there really isn't much choice in the political process. My platform priorities are removing the corrupting influence of money out of politics. For surely, this is the lifeblood of the major 2 corporate parties. The problem is that then service is done to those big money special interests, and the people's interests are left begging. The first thing that has to be done is we must get a reversal of the Citizens United. Hello, Bill. Citizens United, which has allowed corporations to be considered as human beings, and they are allowed to contribute unlimited amounts of money as people. And this is very dark money, because a lot of this money could be coming from places as crazy as Russia. Who would have ever thunk that maybe the Russians have a vested interest in putting money into our political system? My second priority, which is in truth my biggest passion, is that healthcare must be perceived and treated as a human right for everyone. Basically, I see the only way to get to that is when we have a clean money campaign finance reform option, so that candidates can run as clean money candidates who refuse to accept corporate donations.
Yes.
Right on.
And then we're likely to have people serving in the Congress and the Senate that see that we definitely are worthy of health care as a human right. I suppose my third priority up until yesterday was okay, but with what the report was from the United Nations just yesterday, it all changes. The climate panel at the United Nations issued basically the last curtain call for human society on the earth. They said basically in their report that we now have an increased temperature of the earth of 1.5 degrees Celsius. If it goes to 2 degrees Celsius, the game is over. And the trajectory of our use of fossil fuels and the consumption of fossil fuels has us within 12 years hitting the increased 2 degrees of centigrade. So, really, I guess all our priorities should be is working to end the addiction. Hello, David. Is working to end the addiction that there is to these fossil fuels, because this is unsustainable both for human society and everything else on our planet. You look at what's happening now in Florida, it's said to be the most dangerous hurricane in the last 100 years. That sounds pretty familiar from just 6 or 7 years ago when Sandy was the most dangerous hurricane to ever hit New Jersey. And these things are happening. And the Nobel Prize winners in economics have a model. And their model was the economic cost of not doing something to stop this climate catastrophe. So there you have it. I would be happy if anyone had any questions or concerns to respond to them. But here we are at the State University. Wonderful place. My son graduated, my daughter-in-law graduated. It's just wonderful. But they are sponsoring a debate where they will not allow anyone but the two corporate party candidates to have their voices heard. And there is no way I can see how those voices will have any disagreement on the need to remove the corrupting influence of big money campaign contributions. Big money, after all, is the lifeblood of both these major parties. And that's where the public interest is shafted in favor of the special interest. Additionally, we have a $780 billion budget for defense spending. Well, what is the relevance of having a defense budget that's larger than the 6 other biggest countries in the world's defense budgets? And what does that leave for infrastructure and providing for health care for all? That's on the basis, of course, of the lobbyists for the military-industrial complex. And it goes on and on. So basically, I'm a reluctant candidate, but it's a privilege to be able to be on the ballot, to have some legitimacy in talking to this venue today. But really and truly, until all sides of candidates can be heard in a venue such as this, this is not representative of democracy as I know it. Thank you. And for those of you who might not be aware, the 2 criteria that they used for establishing whether a candidate could take part in this debate was, number 1, you had to show receipts of having spent $5,600 on your campaign. It's tough for me because I'm not selling my soul for contributions. It'd be great if I could get some small campaign contributions, but I do not have the means to have $5,600 in receipts as the 2 corporate party candidates, Democrat and Republicans, have. The second criteria was that they did a survey from Stockton to see if you could garner 7% approval in order to be invited. Of course, it was linked with the $5,600, which was a no-starter for someone like me to begin with. It was kind of funny because the executive director of the Hughes Foundation sent me an email asking me, how do you phonetically pronounce your name so that when we do the survey, our surveyor will be able to pronounce it correctly? And all I could do is laugh. Did he truly think I was that innocent and naive to believe that sending me that email with me phonetically pronouncing my name would give that survey any kind of legitimacy? No. The only thing I believe should give legitimacy for candidates to be involved with any debate is, are they qualified on the ballot? And if they are on the ballot, they have a right to give a different point of view than the 2 corporate party candidates, the Democrat and the Republican. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are any questions or...
What party are you in?
Independent. I was once a Democrat, but when I saw the rigging of the process to giving an endorsement to the candidate who at the time had $600,000 in his campaign war chest, I said, I'm no longer a Democrat. I did support one of the 4 progressive candidates, but it was really tough when you had 4 people that basically were on the same page. And, you know, how do you make a choice? If all 4 of them had been on with one person, they could have possibly won the endorsement and run as a Democrat. So I'm independent, proudly. Yes, sir.
Are you running in all of New Jersey?
No, only in the 2nd Congressional District, which happens to be the largest area of any congressional district in New Jersey. It's because here in South Jersey our population is kind of sparse, and a congressional district has to be made up of 500,000 plus citizens. So they have this all the way through 7 different counties in New Jersey. So I am on the ballot just for this district, though.
Okay.
You spoke on climate change and dark money in politics. Do you want to offer your thoughts on wealth inequality?
Of course. Well, wealth inequality. Wealth inequality is really and truly, it seems that the Koch brothers and those people who are not respectful of the climate scientists who have come down just yesterday that the catastrophe's on the way unless we change things. They see that they can always move to a new location, higher land, etc. This is a time where all human beings, whether they are poor, living in a lowland area, or the wealthy, there should be no difference in equality. And that's the same thing I feel with healthcare. We need to have Medicare for all, a single-payer system with one level of care for every American. It doesn't matter if you're the grand poo-poo or you're the man on the street. The grand poo-poos and their political friends need to make sure it's a good system that we all have. And there should be no other, there should not be insurance companies allowed to profiteer in the healthcare system and be an intermediary between the patient and their doctors. There's no need for insurance companies, but I am aware that the major parties do get a lot of campaign contributions from the health industrial complex, no different than the military industrial complex. And I recommend that everyone, and you especially, check out a movie called Dark Money. It was on PBS, Point of View, and man, it was an eye-opener as to what's happening. And while you're at it, it might be easier for you to see Michael Moore's new film, 11/9, and he's wonderful because he also gobsmacks Obama, who a lot of Democrats consider Saint Barack, and he definitely reveals what makes him anything but saintly. So, Bill, it's great to see you. Maybe there's another very fine progressive candidate, Bill Benford, and maybe there'd be, would you like to make any?
It's your show.
No, it's not my show. I just, yeah. In fact, I told them that I met someone on the phone that I really liked, and he might be coming, and then I left a message or an email, but I didn't hear back from you. So no problem. But you know, I didn't know whether you were coming or not, so I sort of set it up so we could get to the gig.